Absolutely, no doubt. Well, it's wonderful to meet you, man. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the show today.
No worries. It's wonderful to meet you, as well, teacher. I'm glad you reached out and we can make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always begin my conversation with 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing our lives. It was an existential fork in the road for most of us. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Okay. And my response really is that I began a family council to educate my family on what to do in instances of financial turmoil, because the pandemic also hit us in a way that was unprecedented for how we could not work and go out no more. So people really didn't know what to do. Coupled with the fact that you're working from home as well too. So that was huge, a huge global shift. And then when the stimulus checks all came out, people didn't know what to do with the money. So I'm a CPA, so I wanted to educate deeply on how the money cycle works, and that's a large part of how things really shifted me for me personally. I took a little more ownership on being that patriarch for my family.
So let me ask you this. If we got an exact handle, there's a lot of things going on title wise with you. If I put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day and one of the kids in the back of the room wanted to know exactly what you do for a living, how would you answer that child?
I am a highly paid checker. I make sure people do the right thing with their numbers.
So have you always been a numbers guy?
Yes, always.
So what did you want to be at 12 years old? What was your dream gig?
Oh, at 12, I was going to be the next Jerry Rice.
There you
I'm
go.
from Louisiana, so we play football, we play baseball. That was it. So I was going to be the next Jerry Rice, and I stopped growing.
I know the feeling. I was 4'11" in high school. I wanted to do things, and I was like, it ain't going to happen. I'm just
It's
going to
not
run.
happening.
I'm going to get in the cross country and chase my shadow, you know?
There you go. Yeah, yep. It's like
That's
almost same here. I played football and I ran track and I played a little baseball. So that's at 12. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about these building blocks of being good with numbers and being highly successful today. Take me back to the beginnings. How did those seeds get planted and harvested into this career you have?
So Joe, I'll tell you that my parents were very transparent with us. They really wanted us to understand how how to take care of yourself. I'll say it that way because they didn't really call it the money cycle like I do. They really wanted to make sure we knew that you get up, you go and work, you go perform, you do well, you get paid, you pay your bills because your bills are actually stuff that you've already used up that you owe. So be prudent on that and control the finances of the home. My dad was really I really commend him because he would open the checkbook with me personally and sit me down when he had to pay the bills on a monthly basis. So that gave a high level of interest with me. We also used to do this thing called like it's like a finding treasure type thing where we would try to find silver quarters when I was a kid. That that was very entertaining from a perspective of having a bonding with my dad, while at the same time it helped me understand the preciousness of precious metals as well too. So that was huge as a kid. Now, as the maturation process took place, my mother started a home health agency when I was younger, and through that business, her and my dad worked together to grow it, and I got to see how running a business from an entrepreneurial spirit really takes place. So it's just been ingrained in me since I was a kid, honestly.
The two big things that are that overtake our lives after we get out of high school specifically is relationships and finances, and they don't quite teach a lot of that. I mean, if you want to get into numbers, you can do it in college, but to have that level of education going into your life, man, that's huge.
Huge, and it kind of laid the groundwork for the entrepreneurial spirit that I have and my sisters as well too. So I commend my parents for it. I tell people all the time I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Um, that they gave me something that my friends never would have received or even thought to receive. But by them giving it to me, I was able to give it to them. And I've been walking and talking this and chewing bubblegum with it for a long time. And it's interesting. Had a group of friends over, and one of my buddies from when I was in high school came over and he told my daughter, he said, we always knew Albert was going to be that guy. He was always talking about how money works and understanding all this stuff. So we already kind of knew this is what he was going to do, and I took that like wow, because I never really thought that you never know who's watching you. And I
Yeah.
think that's the interesting piece. You never know who's actually watching how you move, even from a young age. So my daughter was like, "Yeah, I guess he's smart."
Yeah. We see all these people that are wealthy or moguls like a Tyler Perry or a Oprah Winfrey or a Warren Buffett, and the way that they have treated money throughout their lives. I'm curious, who have you admired that's on a large level that manages their money and does it the right way? From what they make
Hmm.
to what they give to the way they manage it. Who's a good example for you?
You're gonna this is gonna knock your socks off. Um, Solomon, King
Okay.
Solomon.
Okay. All right. I
He
like it.
walks down a road of wisdom and how to deal with money through Proverbs in a very very deep way. That level of education. My dad would always tell me too that you should read Psalms before you go to bed. And it has a layer of prayers from King David, and then roll into to Solomon, King Solomon, in the morning before you do anything, and just read a proverb. And in those proverbs, it talks deeply about not just how to deal with money, but how to deal with life from a wisdom perspective. So that if you want to talk about someone to look up to, look at all the riches that King Solomon had and how he had to manage through all of that and all the trials and tribulations that he had. And every instance of how we live and move today is based off of his life.
I've interviewed some people that got into the idea of the psychology that we have with money. And there's a lot of people that have a bad relationship. And it seems
Yes.
weird. It's hard to decode all the layers of it, but there's a lot of us that do. We look at money as this thing that can create all kinds of anxiety. Have you always had a good relationship with money? Have you psychologically looked at it in a healthy way from day one?
No, 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 no. I'm not going to say unconsciously from the lessons that I've learned. I've had a relationship with money, but I'll tell you, it's not money, it's resources, and I think that's where the equation gets um, inverted, where we look at money as an asset, and it's really not. Asset money is a tool to be used to acquire assets, and if that rhetoric is not constantly promoted, you lose track of what you're really trying to do. You know, if I would much rather use the money as a tool to go buy some gold, buy some silver, buy some stocks and bonds, buy a business, and have an asset that's going to make money for me and continue to grow for me, regardless of what's happening in the world, regardless of inflation, deflation, stagnation, none of all that stuff. Because we have a fiat currency, it's not attached to anything. And that fiat currency is going to consistently go up and down, really down right now, because things because resources are going to constantly cost more. Even if you just look through history, it's always a conquest for resources. Any type of war, any type of um, conflict reverts back to somebody trying to usurp for resources. At the end of the day, it's all about that. And now I'll go back to even the greatest conflict of a resource to begin with. Again, going back to the Bible,
Yeah.
the land of Canaan, Israel, is land. The whole argument is about land, 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 land. What's the one resource we're not going to get any more of? Land. And it's like that is the equation that gets flipped upside down because we're constantly chasing a dollar and the dollar is constantly shrinking and we don't and it's like we missed that boat. So if anybody want to have a better relationship, stop thinking about money as something that you just got to build. Think about assets to build. Think about resources to build. If the world went upside down and everybody stopped saying that this $1 bill is a $1 bill and start just calling a piece of paper, because if you read it closely, it says it's a note. That's all it says. It's a note. It's basically a promissory note that you would go back to trying to find resources, and that's at the end of the day. That's what I try to teach. That's what I try to coach. Try to explain that we are on a constant build up of trying to find resources and build resources and use those resources to keep us secure and keep us comfortable. And in that level of trying to seek comfort, there's going to be struggle along the way to try to acquire that. And I think that's why I keep going. Just look back at your history, and it'll tell you flat
Right.
out what are we doing? Why are we really here? To build resources to take care of everybody. That's at the end of the day. That's what it's all about.
So speaking of land, There was a guy named Dennis Hope. This is a true story. He wanted to claim ownership of all the planets in the moon. So he sent a fax to the Nixon administration every day for like a year. And they finally, to get this guy off of their back, they looked in international law and said no country can claim ownership over planets. So they
Right.
gave this guy. So he started selling all these gimmick deeds to the moon. I bought one. A friend of mine got me, and I have like a map. I have like a hectare. I have like an acre of land. It was $20. It was like an official lunar deed, and he did it for every planet. This guy made tons of money. So when I think about what you're saying about land, we've maxed it on this planet, but he went to
Right.
the next level, and he's making all this money on places no one's going to probably ever see in our lifetime. You know?
So this was when did this I'd say, when was this time period again?
It was around the 70s that he did it,
In the
probably early
70s?
to mid 70s, and they finally relinquished, gave it to him. So he got gimmicky, and he was just, it was online. You could get on there and you could buy a property, and for $20, you got an envelope with a constitution or some like declaration of the moon. You had like your spot on the moon, and it was like a deed that said you owned the property, and it was 20
Wow.
bucks. Yeah.
I
So,
love it. I love it.
yeah.
So watch this. Um, quick little story sidebar.
Yeah.
Not not the recent Superman movies, but there was a Superman movie that came out, and Lex Luthor was found a way to make more land on Earth by building out glaciers to expand out
Wow.
across the ocean.
Wow.
And his plan, diabolical plan, the whole way was to say, "Hey, this is a piece of land that you can actually purchase and buy." And that's what. So the whole conflict was that this was unsafe. You can't do that. You're killing all the animals underwater, you're killing the sea creatures, and all that type of stuff. However, when you think about it, it made sense.
Yeah.
It made perfect sense that
Totally
hey, you know
did.
what? Let me build something out or come up with a way to create something that doesn't that's a product or a resource that cannot be made again.
Yeah.
So I get it. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Totally.
Sell
Absolutely.
pieces of the moon. I think you could probably put that deed online right now and make a killing.
Oh yeah. I it
Somebody will buy it.
yeah, I in fact it's weird. It actually the place it landed, we used to go get a drink after work, and this was in my 20s. They hung it up behind the bar, and that bar ended up burning down right before the
Mm,
pandemic began. So, yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so there you go. It's literally up in smoke, the whole thing. And it's
Oh
probably a
wow.
metaphor for the whole thing anyway. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
So let me ask you this question. The one thing that you've made very clear up front is about resources, but I'm curious, when you got that first big paycheck, what did you buy? Did you go out and say, "Man, I want this"? Did you have a moment like that?
Wow. My first big paycheck.
And just something that you wanted, that you always wanted, and you made some money and you're like, "Man, I have to take care of myself this one time."
Honestly, I would be very transparent with you and say that I don't really move like that.
Okay,
Honestly,
cool.
I'll just be very transparent. I'm a planner. So in every regard, um, there's a tagline, a framework that I use called Plan Act Review. And in that framework, I'm working through planning out not tomorrow, not not next week, not next year, but I'm 5, 10 years ahead of how I'm trying to make things work out. And it's a I'm a big fan of Stephen Covey.
Yeah,
He wrote the book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and one of his major habits was begin with the end in mind. So if we begin with the end in mind and start thinking in longevity of things and living through the decades, you can actually map your way back to how you should plan out certain things. So receiving a big paycheck, well, if I got that big paycheck, I had that planned out already.
yeah,
So if there was something I was going to a resource that I was going to acquire with that, I'd already had that planned out as well too.
gotcha.
So I can't logically tell you that I remember the moment when a large sum of money came to me that I didn't already had scaled out to go do something else with it. Call me boring, but that's the
I dig it.
that's the God that's the God honest truth.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Who's been your inspirational force throughout your life? Who's been a heroic force that's allowed you to become you?
Oh, honestly, it's my parents, my mom and dad, and if I'm from every aspect of different qualities about each one of them. My father was the consistent rock in the family, while my mother was, she actually was the more of a risk taker than he was. Actually, she had the real true entrepreneur spirit inside of her to take us as a bunch of kids to say, hey, this is what we're doing, and and my dad just said, okay, if that's what you believe in, we're gonna do it. So that to me, having the courage to take a risk, and seeing how you can fail, but in that failure, there's lessons to be learned along the way, and using that to not just fall, but fall forward with the lessons that you learn. So that is a constant reminder of from a mentorship perspective. It was them. From a looking up to perspective, it was them. From somebody to actually see a trial and error take place, because sometimes you're blind leading the blind, and you have to go through an experience to learn from it, hard knocks type of way. It was them. So that, they're no longer with me, but everything that was inside of them, I feel like they poured inside of myself, and I like to share that with everybody. I mean, even with the book that I wrote, it's 100% about family. I'm having a family value system that's designed in a way to really give you the lessons that you need to hear, and not just verbally hear, but actually see it in script as well too. That I wanted to make sure my children would have, and they would be able to have something for their children as well too, for how we govern ourselves.
So when you looked into that entrepreneurial spirit, when you look at your career, what's the biggest risk that you took?
Every Well, so the biggest risk I would say was making a pivot, from being from one, I would say, from one city going to a new city. That's like, I'm from Louisiana, so there are no CPAs in my family, and that's not something that was that was talked about as far as how to be a CPA, and what all that really means. Um, and when I graduated from college, I scooped my little self up, took my dog, and we moved out to Houston, Texas. And I from one job to the next job, kind of learning and being under the tutelage of other folks to learn from. It's I would say that's to me the, leaving Houston, leaving Louisiana, leaving from Baton Rouge, going to Houston, and then from Houston coming out to Atlanta. Those were major life changes. So for me, I would say that's the best answer for taking that next step, and taking that risk and doing it, because you
Yeah.
don't know how it's going to work out.
So when you ask CEOs, people that understand money and success, work-life balance, it almost seems as though it's a myth. What's your philosophy on work-life balance? How does that work for you?
Purpose. Once you find your purpose, there is no such thing as work. There's no such thing as doing something that you really don't want to do. It's purpose. So, in every aspect of it, being purpose driven, and really aligning what that purpose really is, gives you the mindset, gives you the energy, gives you the passion to keep going for the next day. And you realize as you're walking through your purpose that minor bumps in the road are just that. They're just bumps. They don't last forever. And you push through those bumps. You either go over them, under them, around them, but you continue to move on. So work life balance is purpose. And I'm a, I walk in that purpose every single day. I enjoy what I do. I give back with what I do. My, it's in my family. We talk about it. It's a part of who we are as a collective group. I will tell you, in every aspect of a family, you got to make sure you're built right. And how are you supposed? When you say built right, what does that mean? Well, what are you here for? That's the real question. If you're going to be the patriarch of a family, what are you really teaching your family? What are your shoulders broad for? What are you covering them from? How are you protecting them? And in protection, it also means not materialistic. It's also from a knowledge based perspective. What are you pouring into them? What are you showing them? If you're going to be the matriarch of a family, how are you nurturing? How are you nurturing the family? How are you caring for them? How are you making sure they're okay? What are you feeding them? How you feed them? All and this, I'm not just talking about food. I'm talking about, when I say feed, I'm talking about pouring every aspect of life inside of them. So all those things, helps understand what true work life balance is, because it's not work life, it's life.
So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you ready to go out into the world, and you had a book in your hands, like a coffee table book, and you handed it to that version and said, "This is how your life turned out," would that young version of you believe it?
I would say he would say 100. Yes, he would believe it.
Would you
He'll
give
believe it.
would you give him any advice?
No, because I think if I did, he might make mistakes.
Right, there you go. I like that answer. So of everything that you've accomplished and evolved to at this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I would tell you that my proudest accomplishment, oh, this from a professional perspective, I'll go there first, is passing the CPA exam.
Yeah,
That was a very, very difficult process to go through. But I'll be transparent with you and your audience. It took me 5 times to pass it, um, and 5 times to pass because it is one of the most difficult exams on the planet. However, being able to push through and continue to study, continue to fail, but fail forward again, and having that realization that you're not going to pass this until you want it more than you want to breathe, and nothing else matters besides getting past this hurdle. And when I came to that realization, that's what happened. So I would tell you that's my greatest accomplishment professionally. My greatest accomplishment personally is getting married and having my children.
yeah.
They and my kids and my wife really energize me to continue to push on, and that's the work life balance, because it's just life. What am I really working and doing all this stuff for? It's for them. At the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's
yeah.
all for them. So it doesn't matter what comes up. It doesn't matter what roadblock comes in. I can look through it all and say, hey, you know what? This is the struggle that I'm supposed to have right now, because I've been built for it, to push through it, because it's for them.
So let's needle in a little bit more into you and your essence. Everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think that I am someone who try to lead by example. I don't really believe in telling somebody to do something I'm not willing to do. So if it came down to making something happen and making something that needed to be done, I'm not going to dictate to you. I'm going to, one, show you, and then delegate to you, and then have expectation that we can agree upon that you can be successful in it. I have just a side example. I have an assistant of mine, and there's nothing that I would tell her to do that I haven't done for myself. There's nothing that I would want her to try to accomplish that I know she can't. And that would just not be fair. So I'm a big believer in giving you stuff that you can actually handle and champion to show how great you are, while at the same time challenging you to do things that you might be a little bit uncomfortable with, but will help you progress to the next level. So that's always huge, always important to let people shine where they shine, but at the same time challenge them where they can be challenged.
So let's go back to the beginnings of that dream of being an athlete. If you could get into a time machine and go back and see one game, where are you going?
One game. I am not going to a game, I'm going to a track meet.
Okay.
Um, and I would tell you that to me was paramount, because one track meet where my team, it was frigidly cold, and we were in a district meet, and we were picked to win at the time, but I ran the mile relay, and in that event I ran the anchor, and we were dead behind. I got the stick, and the guy who received it before me was a solid 50 to probably 70 meters ahead of me. And realizing that, hey, you know what, I got to give it all I got, not even thinking about it, I got the stick, and I caught him on the backstretch. And as I came on in, I felt in every aspect him right on my heels trying to get it back, and I just wouldn't let it go. So I can only imagine what it was like to be in the stands for that
Yes.
as I crossed the finish line. We won that district meet, and that's one that I would never forget. So I would love to go back just to watch and see how that
Yeah.
actually went down.
I love it, man. So if anyone has any questions, they want to get your book, they want to hire you, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
100%. You can go to albertbutler.com. You can Google me, Albert Butler CPA, and you'll find all the great things on all that I'm been doing. I've been published in Forbes, published in Yahoo Finance, published on Business Insider, and very active on LinkedIn as well too, and Instagram. So I'm all over the place. You'll be more than happy. And also, I have a book that's on Amazon right now: Life, Truth, Love, Loss, Success, and Failure. Highly recommended. It's a great read. It has over 100 reviews at this point, and is ranking out at 4.8 out of 5. So great tool that I put together for my children, but is turning into a reader's classic.
I love it. I'm going to put all these links in the show notes. Albert, wonderful to meet you, man. Thank you so much for your vigor, for your story. Best of luck with everything.
Joe, this has been amazing, amazing, amazing. If I could just leave one thing to your audience as well too, when times get hard and struggles are real, always tell yourself, I can because I will. I will because I can. I don't say can't because I can. We all champions. And if you believe that you're a champion, you will progress. Nobody can beat you but you. So thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. This has been a really good time.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.